The ancient DNA experiments of early civilizations. What if the greatest genetic engineers were not from our future, but from our past? Thousands of years before modern laboratories, before microscopes and DNA sequencing, ancient civilizations might have already been experimenting with the very code of life itself. Across ancient myths and archaeological sites, strange patterns emerge. Stories of gods creating hybrid beings, of mysterious watchers descending from the sky, of creatures half human, half animal carved into temple walls. Were these purely symbolic tales? Or could they be distorted memories of real experiments, a forgotten chapter of human evolution? Recent discoveries have started to blur the line between myth and science. In Siberia's permafrost, Neanderthal DNA has been found intertwined with that of modern humans. In caves across Europe and Asia, paintings depict beings that seem neither fully human nor beast. And in the deserts of Mesopotamia, cuneiform tablets describe the gods fashioning mankind by mixing the blood of deities with the clay of earth. Could these stories hide evidence of ancient DNA manipulation, a lost technology buried beneath layers of time? Tonight, we'll explore an unsettling question. Did early civilizations possess genetic knowledge far beyond what we imagine? From the frozen remains of Ice Age hunters to the cryptic rituals of Sumerian priests, we'll follow the traces of an ancient science, one that might reveal who or what we truly are. Because maybe the story of human evolution isn't just about survival. Maybe it's about design. This is the ancient DNA experiments of early civilizations. To understand the mystery of ancient DNA experiments, we first need to travel back tens of thousands of years to the age before writing, before civilization, when multiple species of humans walked the earth together. During the late Ice Age, roughly 40,000 years ago, our world was home to not just Homo sapiens, but also Neanderthals, Denisovans, Homo floresiensis, and perhaps others still undiscovered. Each lived in separate regions, Europe, Siberia, Southeast Asia, yet genetic evidence shows that they interbred. In 2010, scientists extracted DNA from a fragment of a finger bone found in Denisova cave, deep in the Altai Mountains of Siberia. To everyone's shock, it revealed the genome of an entirely new human species, the Denisovans, and showed that modern humans still carry their genes today. Polynesians, Aboriginal Australians, and even some Southeast Asians possess up to 5% Denisovan DNA. But what's even stranger is how these interbreeding events occurred. Some geneticists have noted anomalous sequences, pieces of code that don't quite fit the evolutionary timeline. They seem too complex, as if introduced deliberately by an unknown hand. Meanwhile, in the cradle of civilization, ancient Sumer, myths described the Annunaki, celestial beings who descended from the heavens to create humanity. According to the Enuma Elish in Epic of Atrahasis, these gods fashioned mankind by mixing their own divine essence with the clay of earth. Incredibly, the word used for essence, shar, or lifeblood, resembles our modern idea of genetic material. Were these myths simply poetic metaphors? Or faint memories of something more literal? An ancient form of bioengineering witnessed by early humans who lacked the language to describe it scientifically. In Egypt, too, similar patterns appear. The Book of the Dead speaks of gods crafting forms of life, combining divine flesh and animal spirits. Temple walls at Abydos and Dendera show creatures with both human and animal features, not as gods alone, but as results of creation rituals. The ancient Greeks later wrote about chimeras, centaurs, and minotaurs, beings formed through unnatural unions. To modern readers, these are mythological monsters. But could they represent distorted recollections of genetic experiments? Early civilizations' attempts to recreate what they once saw their gods perform? Even in pre-Columbian America, the same echoes resound. The Popol Vuh, the sacred book of the Maya, describes the gods' early attempts to create humanity. First from mud, then from wood, and finally, successfully, from maize mixed with blood. It is almost as if these ancient texts preserve a recurring formula: trial and error, genetic mixing, refinement, across entirely disconnected continents. At first glance, these might seem like coincidences, shared symbolic language to explain creation. But the further we dig into archaeology, the more literal these myths begin to sound. In 2018, researchers studying ancient DNA found that Neanderthals and modern humans shared a gene variant linked to brain development, specifically one influencing the neocortex, the region responsible for reasoning and creativity. This gene exchange might have happened through limited interbreeding, but its precision and timing suggest something more: intentional. Add to this the discovery of archaic introgression, genes in modern humans that do not match any known ancestral species, and the question grows darker. If these sequences don't come from Neanderthals, Denisovans, or us, then from whom? Some scientists cautiously describe these as ghost lineages, unknown hominins who once existed but left no fossil record, only traces in our DNA. Others whisper of a far stranger possibility: that advanced civilizations, or even visitors not of Earth, could have tampered with our genetic makeup long before recorded history. Let's not forget, our ancestors built monuments that still defy explanation. Pyramids aligned to stars with surgical precision. Megaliths weighing hundreds of tons moved across vast distances. Could this sudden leap in architectural and mathematical sophistication be connected to a simultaneous leap in biology? A genetic awakening triggered by something unnatural? Even mainstream science admits that around 50,000 years ago, Homo sapiens experienced what's called the cognitive revolution. In a relatively short span, humans began painting, burying their dead, crafting tools, and developing complex language. Evolution usually takes millions of years. So what caused this explosion of intelligence? Was it simply natural selection, or did someone, or something, intervene? Let's imagine the world through the eyes of a prehistoric human, standing beneath the aurora of an ice age sky. He looks up at beings descending from the heavens, wielding powers he cannot comprehend. They touch the wounded and heal them instantly. They speak words that glow with energy. They alter the course of life itself. To him, they are gods. To us, perhaps, geneticists. Whether these were myths, metaphors, or memories, they left an imprint that endured. The human obsession with divine creation, immortality, and hybrid life forms spans every continent and every era. From the Sumerians' Annunaki to the Egyptians' Thoth, from the Indian Manu created by Brahma to the Dogons' Nomo beings, the theme is the same. Humanity owes its existence to those who engineered it. Of course, not all scientists agree with such interpretations. Many argue these stories reflect humanity's search for meaning, not literal events. But as ancient DNA research continues to evolve, even the most skeptical voices admit we've barely scratched the surface of our origins. Every genome we sequence uncovers new mysteries. Every fossil unearthed seems to rewrite our timeline. And buried within our very cells may lie evidence of ancient hands that shaped who we became. In the next section, we'll explore the first major theory. Could the genetic blending of early humans and Neanderthals have been the result of deliberate experimentation, not chance? And if so, who were the experimenters? Imagine this world. 45,000 years ago. The Ice Age has wrapped the planet in a silent, glittering death. Herds of mammoth and bison cross frozen plains. Fires flicker inside caves, where small groups of humans, Homo sapiens, huddle together against the cold. But they are not alone. Somewhere out there, another kind of human roams. Stockier, stronger, eyes glinting amber in the firelight, the Neanderthals. They have brains as large as ours, perhaps even larger. They craft tools, bury their dead, and whisper around campfires in a language we can no longer hear. When Homo sapiens first entered Europe, these two worlds collided. What followed wasn't only a battle for survival, it was the beginning of something far stranger. Geneticists now know that modern humans carry Neanderthal DNA, fragments that make up roughly 1 to 4% of our genome. But these genes are not random leftovers of ancient love affairs. Many affect our immune systems, our metabolism, even our skin and hair. It's as if nature, or someone, deliberately selected which traits to keep. Some researchers, like Svante Pääbo, the pioneer of paleogenetics, describe the Neanderthal genome as a code book, one that modern humans borrowed from to enhance survival in the harsh Ice Age. But others suggest something even more provocative, that this blending wasn't natural evolution at all. It might have been a program. A small band of prehistoric hunters approaches a clearing where a strange light glows. They kneel, trembling, before towering figures unlike anything they've seen, pale-skinned, radiant, their eyes filled with calm intelligence. The visitors extend their hands, and one by one, the hunter's fear turns into fascination. These stories sound fantastical, yet nearly every ancient culture remembers a moment when sky beings descended to teach humanity how to plant, how to build, how to heal, and perhaps how to create life itself. The Sumerian tablets tell us that when the gods, the Annunaki, grew tired of manual labor, they decided to fashion a worker. They instructed their chief scientist, Enki, and the goddess Ninhursag to combine the essence of the gods with that of primitive man. In the story, the essence is placed in a womb, and a being of clay is born. This creature, Adapa, becomes the prototype for humankind. While mainstream scholars interpret this as metaphor, the imagery feels eerily biological. Essence, womb, clay, creation, all describe a process resembling artificial insemination or genetic hybridization. Today, our scientists can extract DNA from ancient bones, modify embryos, and even splice genes between species. We call this CRISPR technology. But what if early civilizations had their own version? One based not on machines, but on knowledge passed down from mysterious ancestors or visitors. When we look at Egyptian art, we see repeated depictions of gods with animal heads. Horus with a falcon's face, Anubis with a jackal's, Thoth with an ibis. These are not random decorations. They symbolize attributes, sight, death, wisdom, tied to the creatures they resemble. But what if those symbols were inspired by real beings created through biological fusion? Hybrid experiments of gods and animals meant to embody certain powers? Archaeologists have uncovered strange artifacts that raise even more questions. At Saqqara in Egypt, a sealed sarcophagus was found containing thousands of mummified hybrid creatures. Cats with bird skulls, crocodiles fused with snakes. Scientists call it ritual symbolism. But what if it's the fossilized echo of genetic experimentation? Ancient attempts to merge traits, perhaps even to resurrect extinct forms. And beyond Egypt, across South America, similar anomalies exist. In Peru's Nazca region, elongated skulls have been unearthed, some with cranial capacities 25% larger than modern humans. DNA analysis of these skulls revealed unexpected anomalies, mutations that don't match any known population. Skeptics argue these are deformations caused by head binding. But head shaping can't increase brain volume or alter bone thickness. So where did these traits come from? All around the world. It's as if ancient people were recording something they saw. Beings created through merging, beings born of light, knowledge, and flesh. If we step back and look at these legends, not as mythology but as memory, they begin to align with a timeline of genetic change. Roughly 200,000 years ago, Homo sapiens appears, suddenly, without clear transitional fossils. Our brains triple in complexity, our speech organs evolve to produce language, and our behavior shifts overnight. Evolution rarely moves this fast. Some anthropologists have even called this moment the Great Leap Forward. So what caused it? Uri, if early humans were modified, perhaps not as an experiment, but as a project, it would explain our strange dual nature, animal instinct and divine intellect, survival-driven yet self-aware. It might even explain why so many ancient cultures insist we were made in the image of gods. Picture an ancient shaman kneeling beside a wounded hunter. He mixes herbs, chants words that seem meaningless, yet the man's wound begins to heal. To us, it's primitive ritual. But what if those chants encoded knowledge of frequency, sound vibration, and genetic response, an ancient biotechnology now forgotten? Across tribal traditions, creation is often tied to sound. In the beginning was the Word, says the Bible. The Hindu Rig Veda describes the universe as born from a cosmic vibration. Could early civilizations have understood DNA not only as material but as resonance, a living frequency capable of being altered by sound and intention? In 2022, researchers discovered that certain sound frequencies can influence DNA repair and expression, what we now call epigenetic modulation. Once again, ancient myth and modern science meet in a curious mirror. Perhaps the ancients didn't have microscopes. They had memory. Perhaps they didn't record formulas. They encoded them in ritual, symbol, and song. When the gods spoke humans into existence, maybe it wasn't metaphor. Maybe it was vibration acting upon matter, consciousness altering code. If so, our ancestors might have been the first to grasp a truth we are only rediscovering. That life is programmable. DNA is a language, and the ancient world may have learned to speak it long before us. But if someone once rewrote the human blueprint, did they ever stop? Or are we still part of that ancient experiment? The deeper we look into the past, the more it feels like fragments of a grand experiment are scattered across time, in myths, in bones, even within our blood. But if ancient civilizations really did possess genetic knowledge, how did it vanish? And who were its keepers? Let's start with one of the most controversial discoveries of the modern era, the Paracas skulls of Peru. DNA samples extracted from these skulls revealed mitochondrial sequences that don't match any known human lineage. The results were controversial, dismissed by many scientists as contamination. Yet the anomalies remain: elongated craniums, thick skull plates, and gene markers suggesting possible hybridization long before colonial times. Was this simply natural mutation or evidence of a separate branch of humanity, one altered or designed for a specific purpose? The Nazca civilization drew massive symbols visible only from the sky, some resembling spirals, others biomorphic creatures. Could these have been ritual markers for the same sky beings who, according to local legends, brought the secrets of life from the stars? It's easy to dismiss as myth until we remember how much of what we once called myth, Troy, the flood, the Denisovans, later turned out to be real. In the 1970s, archaeologist Zecharia Sitchin proposed that the Annunaki from Sumer weren't gods at all, but advanced beings from another world, who created humans as laborers through genetic engineering. His books were ridiculed by academia, but inspired a wave of alternative archaeology that forced mainstream science to confront something uncomfortable: the overwhelming consistency of creation myths across distant continents. From the Dogon of Mali, who described star beings from Sirius with astonishing astronomical accuracy, to the Hopi stories of the ant people who taught the first humans underground, these traditions all converge on the same idea. We were taught, modified, uplifted, but perhaps we don't need extraterrestrials to explain this. Perhaps the gods were simply an earlier civilization, human, but far more advanced, whose knowledge survived only as myth after cataclysmic destruction. Göbekli Tepe, built over 11,000 years ago, appears suddenly, without evolutionary buildup. Its builders understood geometry, astronomy, and animal symbolism in a way that seems almost encoded. Carvings on its pillars show foxes, vultures, snakes, creatures associated with transformation, death, and rebirth. Some researchers believe it may have been not just a temple, but a genetic calendar, mapping species, recording extinctions and renewals, perhaps even marking the timeline of engineered evolution after the Ice Age. The site was deliberately buried around 8000 BC, as if someone wanted to hide it or preserve it for the future. If Göbekli Tepe was a remnant of this forgotten scientific age, then humanity's first civilization might not have been the first at all, only the first to re-emerge. Modern genetic studies now confirm what these myths have hinted at for millennia. Humanity didn't evolve in a simple, linear fashion. Instead, our history is full of sudden upgrades, leaps in intelligence, immune resistance, and longevity that appear too abrupt to be explained by random mutation alone. Some anthropologists suggest these could be the result of horizontal gene transfer, a process where DNA moves across species boundaries. In nature, this happens among bacteria, but rarely in higher organisms. Yet, in our genome, there are dozens of viral and non-human sequences that seem inserted, almost like a signature left behind by genetic engineering. Was evolution itself guided? Not everyone agrees. Mainstream scientists argue these patterns are simply the chaotic beauty of evolution: trial, error, adaptation. But skeptics point out that the odds of such precision, intelligence genes appearing exactly when climate change forced human migration, are astronomically low. Could the catastrophic shifts of the Ice Age have been part of this experiment? A stress test for new genetic prototypes of humanity? All around the world, submerged beneath oceans, lie the ruins of cities that predate known history. Yonaguni in Japan, Dwarka in India, Pavlopetri in Greece. If these belong to civilizations wiped out by rising seas at the end of the last ice age, could they have carried the genetic secrets that once defined humanity's leap forward? The destruction of these societies might not have erased their legacy entirely, only scattered it. Tanini, we may be the living continuation of their experiment. There's another puzzle, one that connects prehistory to our modern obsession with immortality. In 2015, scientists discovered a mysterious 30,000-year-old virus in Siberian permafrost. Still intact, still potentially active. Some researchers warn that thawing ice could awaken ancient pathogens. Others suggest these ancient microorganisms might hold the key to reversing aging itself. Ancient DNA is, quite literally, a time machine. But what if it's also a message, one left intentionally, encoded by civilizations who foresaw their own extinction and wanted to pass on the blueprint of life? Could our ancestors have used DNA not just as biology, but as storage, an archive of knowledge written into the code of every cell? Modern science has proven this possible. In 2021, researchers encoded entire libraries, films, even computer programs into strands of synthetic DNA. The molecule is billions of times denser than digital storage. It can last for tens of thousands of years, buried, frozen, or hidden in plain sight. If we can do it now, who's to say someone didn't do it before? Still, within science, there's resistance. The very idea that ancient civilizations could manipulate genetics challenges everything we know about progress, chronology, and human uniqueness. But history shows us we've underestimated the ancients before. For centuries, scholars laughed at the idea that prehistoric people could align monuments with stars or map the precession of the equinoxes. Yet the Great Pyramid, Stonehenge, and Nabta Playa all do exactly that. So perhaps the next revelation isn't architectural, but biological. When we call ancient myths primitive, we reveal our own arrogance. Maybe they weren't describing magic. They were describing science using the only words they had. The blood of gods, breath of life, divine spark, all metaphors for DNA, consciousness, and the mysterious force that animates matter. The question we must ask isn't whether ancient people had technology like ours, but whether their understanding of life itself surpassed what we've rediscovered today. And if so, what happened to them? Did they destroy themselves, as we are now on the brink of doing, playing with the same code of creation? Did they vanish in cataclysm, leaving behind only whispers and symbols carved into stone? Or did they simply move on, their experiment complete, leaving us to wonder where we truly come from and what we were made for? In the next chapter, we'll turn the question inward. Because whether these experiments were myth or memory, their message remains. Humanity has always sought to reshape itself. But what does that mean for our future, as we now hold the same power our ancestors once feared? If all these stories and genetic mysteries point to one thing, it is this: humanity has always been obsessed with transformation. We are the only species that looks at itself and says, I can be more. Whether through stone tools, fire, or gene editing, we have never stopped rewriting what it means to be human. When we hear about ancient DNA experiments, it might sound distant or mythical, but the truth is, we are doing the same thing today, just with different names. We call it biotechnology, transhumanism, genetic enhancement. We splice animal genes into crops to make them stronger. We design embryos to avoid disease. We resurrect extinct animals like the mammoth through cloning. And we are beginning to ask if we can design intelligence itself, artificial minds that might one day surpass our own. It is unsettling to realize that the myths of gods creating humanity in laboratories of clay may not just describe the past. They may be a warning from it. Sone, every civilization that gains power over life faces the same moral dilemma. Just because we can change creation, does that mean we should? Perhaps this is the deeper message hidden in the old legends. When the Sumerian gods created humankind, they did so to ease their own burden. When the Greek Prometheus gave humans fire, symbol of knowledge, he was punished for overstepping the boundary of divine law. And in every ancient flood myth, humanity's destruction comes after it begins to play God, building towers to the heavens, or seeking immortality through forbidden science. These stories are not just allegories. They are mirrors held up to us today. For the first time since the dawn of civilization, we too have the power to rewrite our genetic code. We can create new species, modify intelligence, even attempt to end death itself. The question that haunted our ancestors now falls upon us. What kind of gods will we become? Look at our modern world. We speak of upgrading humanity, stronger, smarter, more beautiful. But beneath those ambitions is an ancient hunger to transcend nature. That desire may be as old as our species. It may even be the inheritance of those who once altered our DNA long ago. If our creators once tampered with life to produce us, then perhaps their impulse lives on inside us, encoded like a dormant instruction. But power without wisdom is the oldest danger in history. Every technological leap has come with a cost. The same fire that cooks our food can destroy our cities. The same gene editing that heals can also divide. We might think of ourselves as masters of evolution, yet we remain bound by the same instincts and fears that ruled the Ice Age hunter. The ancient experiments, if they ever happened, were not just biological, they were moral. They asked the universe's hardest question: can a being capable of creation also be capable of restraint? Imagine the Neanderthals and early humans merging their bloodlines. They didn't know it, but their mingling shaped the destiny of all future generations. We are walking evidence of an ancient synthesis: strength, adaptability, and imagination combined into one fragile species. The experiment succeeded. Yet every success in evolution comes with sacrifice. Entire species vanished to make way for one that could dream. The cost of creation has always been extinction. When we look at the ruins of lost civilizations, we see the same pattern repeated. A rise of knowledge, a golden age of art and science, followed by collapse, often sudden, often unexplained. Could it be that every time humanity approaches the secret of life, it reaches a threshold it cannot yet cross? Could that be the real lesson behind Atlantis, Lemuria, and the buried cities beneath our oceans? Not that they were myths, but that they were warnings? Our generation stands at another such threshold. We hold in our hands tools that can alter the human story forever. We can revive extinct species, erase diseases, and perhaps one day merge consciousness with machines. In doing so, we step into the same unknown our ancestors might have once entered. We become the experimenters, the architects, the very gods we used to fear. But power alone is never enough. What matters is the intention behind it. Ancient myths suggest that when creation was driven by curiosity, life flourished. When it was driven by pride, it ended in ruin. The same principle applies today. The future of evolution will not be decided by technology. It will be decided by consciousness. So perhaps the true gift of those ancient geneticists, whether divine or human, was not the manipulation of DNA, but the awakening of awareness. They gave us curiosity, empathy, imagination, the traits that allow us to look back and ask why instead of merely how. Those qualities are not coded in our genes alone. They are choices we make every day. If we view our history as one long experiment, then humanity itself is still unfinished. We are both the subject and the scientist. The myths of creation may have been less about gods shaping clay and more about life shaping itself, endlessly evolving, endlessly learning. And so the question is no longer whether early civilizations experimented with DNA. The real question is, will we repeat their mistakes or continue their work? Will we use the knowledge of life to dominate or to understand, to control or to connect? Every strand of our DNA carries echoes of everything that came before us. The mammoth that fed our ancestors, the Neanderthal who shared our fire, the first cell that split in the ocean billions of years ago. We are all of it, an unbroken lineage of experiments, failures, miracles. To know this is to see that the divine laboratory was never out there in the heavens. It is here, inside us. We are the continuation of the experiment and its guardians. The ancients may have left no instructions, no tablets explaining what to do next. But maybe they didn't need to. The instructions are written in our curiosity, our compassion, and our endless need to seek meaning. The greatest experiment is not in the genes we change, but in the conscience we cultivate. And perhaps, when we finally learn that lesson, we will understand what our ancestors were truly trying to create. Not perfect bodies, not immortal beings, but a species capable of remembering where it came from and choosing where it will go next. Throughout this journey, we've walked a thin line between myth and science, between sacred story and genetic memory. We've explored the possibility that ancient civilizations, from Sumer to Egypt, from the Andes to forgotten Ice Age tribes, might have understood, or even practiced, forms of genetic manipulation that shaped what we now call humanity. But maybe the true revelation isn't whether those experiments literally happened. Maybe it's that the idea itself keeps returning, across ages, cultures, and now, our own laboratories. Every generation rediscovers the same forbidden truth, that life can be altered, that creation can be remade, that evolution is not fixed, but fluid, a conversation between intelligence and nature that never ends. Our ancestors might have expressed this through stories of gods mixing blood and clay. We express it through CRISPR codes and test tubes. But the essence is the same, a question echoing through time. Who gave us this power, and what are we meant to do with it? If the ancient myths of the Anunnaki, of Prometheus, of divine engineers hold any truth, then we are their descendants not only in body, but in purpose. We inherited their curiosity and their burden, because creation is never a single act. It is a chain reaction that binds every creator to their creation. Once you begin reshaping life, you are forever responsible for its outcome. Perhaps that's why so many ancient stories end in floods, fire, or silence. Perhaps those civilizations reached too far, too fast, and the experiment collapsed under its own ambition. If so, their ruins are not just remnants of stone, they are warnings carved into the bones of time. And yet, there's another way to see it. Maybe those civilizations didn't fail. Maybe they succeeded, not by surviving physically, but by passing on something deeper: awareness, memory, the instinct to look up at the stars and wonder, who were we before we became human? Because evolution is not only biological, it is spiritual. It is the awakening of matter into consciousness, the slow realization that we are not accidents of dust, but participants in a cosmic experiment billions of years in the making. If ancient DNA experiments ever happened, they were not just about creating flesh and bone. They were about seeding potential, embedding intelligence into the universe so it could one day ask the questions we're asking now. We are the experiment thinking about itself. Every fossil we uncover, every gene we map, brings us closer to understanding that we were never separate from the mystery. We are the mystery. The genetic blending of species, the myths of creation, the scientific pursuit of immortality, they all point to one truth. Life is a self-replicating story, and we are both its authors and its chapters. So as we stand here, in an age where science can resurrect extinct creatures and rewrite human DNA, we must ask ourselves, are we repeating the path of those who came before, or walking towards something new? Will our age of discovery end as theirs did, in silence and ruin? Or will we finally learn what it means to create responsibly, to evolve not only in power, but in wisdom? The ancients might have whispered their final lesson through myth. The hands that mold life must also understand its soul. And that is what defines us. Not our genes, but the consciousness that questions them. Perhaps the ancient experiment never ended. Perhaps it continues through us, through every thought, every discovery, every choice to create or to destroy. So the next time you look at your reflection, remember, the story of humanity is still being written. The lab is the world. The experiment is us, and the outcome remains unknown. Do we really know everything about our ancestors? Or are we still uncovering the truth they left encoded within us? If you enjoyed this journey into the forgotten depths of human origins, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. The next discovery might rewrite everything we thought we knew about evolution, civilization, and the mysterious architects of life itself. Because history doesn't just lie buried in the ground, it lives inside every cell of who we are.